and welcome to the SME Focus show powered by MTDCNC. I'm Mark Weymouth from the Sensor Specialist Plus Automation. On this week's show, as always, we aim to highlight aspects of UK manufacturing or topic of interest to SMEs. Therefore, my guest today is Iain McCallister, Chief Exec of MAN Commercial Protection Limited, a leading independent security provider, and one I notice is currently a finalist for the Security and Safety Entrepreneur Awards. I'm assuming that's something like the SEERs. So, hi, welcome. Hi, Iain. Welcome to SME Focus.
Yeah, morning, Mark. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, we're finalists third year running. Last 2 years for the SSEA Awards. We won Company of the Year 2 years ago, and then last year myself I won a Lifetime Achievement.
Fantastic. And is that the glamour of a nice meal and plenty of celebration that we imagine an award should be?
Well, to be fair, we do a lot of awards, we do one every year, which is at Windsor Racecourse for the ACS pay setters, which is a luncheon, which is really good. That's really good because it recognises the staff, and we've had numerous great winners over the last few years who have been doing their job and done it to a high standard and dealt with the serious issues. We've been able to award them. And then every year we go to London for the BSIA Awards. Yet again, we take the staff or teams down with us. And that's at the Royal Lancaster Hotel in London. So that's nice. But as I said, a lot of the time with awards we're really looking to reward the staff.
Okay, brilliant. Well, when I did my usual scour of LinkedIn to look you up, first thing I noticed was you're a Solihull. So for viewers elsewhere in the country, that's the posh neighbour to Birmingham, or well, that's what my wife keeps telling me anyway. And more importantly, you founded MAN Commercial Protection just over 33 years ago. So because each week I use a musical reference point to try and lock the key date into people's minds or to leave them an annoying earworm for the rest of the day. If I go back 33 years and 1 month to 1993, we've got Dolly Parton's iconic I Will Always Love You being sung by Whitney Houston. So that was number one, and I'm sure that's going to stick in people's minds. Do you remember it?
A great song, wasn't it? The Bodyguard, Whitney Houston. No, it was great. I don't remember it as Dolly Parton. I definitely remember it as Whitney Houston. She was brilliant.
My useless piece of pub trivia is Dolly Parton was sort of in her very early days working with a guy and tied into him for many years and couldn't escape being his backing singer. And she wrote that song one night to say, "Let me go. I don't want to be a partner anymore." So there's a good backstory to it.
The lyrics mean something then.
Very much so, yeah. And apparently the guy cried when he heard it, said, "Let me produce this and you can go."
Oh, wow. Okay.
So on that distraction, back to your business 33 years ago, what prompted you to found MAN Commercial Protection, and what was the story behind the name? Maybe let's start there, and then what were your objectives for the business?
Yeah, so we're a security company based in Solihull. We've been trading now since March 1993. So throughout the whole of the Midlands, we're the biggest privately owned man guarding security company ever. That's like 10 years old news now. We're a national company. We're based in Solihull. We've got a big 12,500 square foot head office set up where we've got our 24-hour control room, our training academy. All of our different departments within the business are all internal, so recruitment, vetting, screening, training, payroll, HR, everything is within head office. The initials of the business, MAN, M-A-N, are the founding partners. So there was myself and my father. My background, when I left school at 16, I never ever sat one exam. I'd never ever, I was boxing at a good level. I was always looking at the dinner bell. I was looking at the 3 o'clock to get out of there, really. My school at the time was quite new, so the teachers were supply teachers, so they didn't look much older than the kids that were leaving, and there wasn't a lot of interest really, and it's changed because some of our kids have been to university, etc. So I do understand that it's a great thing to have academia as such, but from my point of view, it weren't really an option. So I left school, started working, and then I quickly started working doing security, doing pubs and clubs. Well, a long time ago, I was only 17. You had to be 18. Ended up working at that time, which was Liberty's nightclub, which was on the Hagley Road in Birmingham, which was Birmingham's best ever nightclub, Liberty's. I worked there for 6 years. So in 1992, my dad retired from West Midlands Police. He'd done his 30 years, got everything, got all of his certificates and that, and decided to leave the police. And we always discussed doing something, setting something up. So MAN, McCallister is me and my late father, Sam. He was with me till 2000. Unfortunately, he passed in 2000. But for the first 7 years, he's seen the business grow to start it. And then obviously moving forward, for the last 26 years, been doing it myself. The A was a gentleman called Dave Atkins. He was in the police with my dad at the time, 1993. Dave was in the police. So when he retired in 94, he become part of, so that was the MA. And then the N was when I was working at Liberties, our head doorman was a guy called Johnny Neighbour. He was 2 times world powerlifting champion, a real good guy. So John come in then. So you got McCallister, Atkins and Neighbour, which are the initials of MAN. John only stayed with the business about 6 months. He said, I'm not sure this will work. But obviously we kept the name. But I've always said that MAN could have easily have been MAC, MAP, MAZ, MAS. But from a man guardian point of view, it was MAN. And it was kind of karma. It was meant to happen, really. So we stayed as MAN. We've always been MAN. Started trading in 1993. After 6 months of trading, we went through the VAT threshold. In them days was 80 grand. So we got a VAT number. Roll on 33 years later, we've still got the same VAT number. So we've been very transparent, and we've done everything. We've yet to do an acquisition. The last couple of years, we've been looking at acquisitions. We've signed NDAs. We've been to London. We've been to Carlisle. We've been to Manchester to look at different acquisitions. But that's a big part of what we're continuing to grow the business.
Okay. And a very long time ago, and you and your dad and a few other guys, what were your initial hopes for the business? What did you see it doing? Was it going to be more sort of just club guarding, or did you have a bigger vision at that point?
Yeah, I never looked at nighttime economy. I never looked ever at, we've got different tombstone moments within our business where things have happened. So in 1993, we set the business up. We never wanted to go into nighttime economy, doors, pubs and clubs and everything. Okay. Never ever wanted to do that. So what we were looking after different corporate clients. Then in 1996, I was asked to go to a meeting at the custard factory in Birmingham. There was a pop group that was just about to go out on tour called Ocean Colour Scene. And when we turned up for the meeting, myself and my dad, the manager of Steve Craddock, a guy called Chris Greenough, who was the band manager, had been in the police with my dad, so that they were pals. So that was a great thing. We went out on tour, and I stayed with Ocean Colour Scene from 1996 to 2004. Worked in 26 countries with them. So that was a tombstone moment. That grew with my background with the boxing and everything else. We started working with Frank Warren in 1998, which is now 28 years ago. And from 1998 all the way through to today, we're still the main security company for Queensbury Promotions, which is Frank Warren.
Impressive. And I notice there's a lot of longevity there, and there's not many businesses that would talk about, oh, we've still got our VAT number, but I think it's probably a big differentiator in your trade that you are, there's been no rolling the companies over. It's the same people, same business, same integrity.
Well, it's funny now because anyone can go onto Companies House and anyone can go and look at people and look at their shareholders, look at everything. Back in the day, you couldn't. You had to pay people like Dun and Bradstreet and people like that. You couldn't do it. But now it's an open book. When you go onto Man Commercial, certainly at Companies House and that, it's so open plan. It's so easy to see. And then I go on and look at certain companies because we're looking at acquisitions, and it's a total myriad. You can't work out who owns them. And there's that many holding companies and different dissolved and all that. It's just totally different. But from our point of view, after 33 years, that's why we made a big thing to grow the business. We've invested a lot in our people. We've invested a lot in our property. Just keep the brand going, really.
Okay. So you mentioned sort of tour security and boxing security, which are obviously the sexy sides.
Yeah.
What other aspects of the business in terms of what sort of companies do you guard? And I guess because this podcast has really got an SME focus, do you work much with SME manufacturers as well?
Absolutely. So the music and the sport is what a lot of people talk about. It's less than 5% of our turnover, but it's what 85% of people want to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you come to head office, we've got 12,500 square foot, three big offices. The walls are totally adorned with jobs that we've done, whether it's music, sport, etc. People don't get the same excitement over a gatehouse or the same excitement over something which is just for us a normal job. But from our point of view, manufacturing, we've looked after some massive manufacturing sites, and that includes all over the country. If you look at Sunseeker super yachts down on the south coast, we've looked after them now for 11 years. So they build obviously the super yachts. We then, throughout manufacturing, we've had numerous companies that have been associated with the JLR supply chain. We looked after companies that put in the steering wheels, put in the seats, put in the engine parts, put in numerous different parts on the vehicles. We looked after food and drink. We've looked after some of the high-end drinks brands. We looked after numerous big logistic companies. So some of the biggest logistic companies in the world we've looked after. That's why during COVID and that we were very, very busy. 2020 for us was one of our busiest years because obviously the whole country had come to a standstill, whereas we were extremely busy because obviously everyone was having deliveries at home. So from our point of view, we were supporting the companies that were supplying the demand.
Okay. Thinking particularly of manufacturers, because this is the one time where your audience really is interested in just the dispatch bay and the guardhouse and the very unsexy part of the world. That's where most of the audience live. If you got any examples of work you do, particularly with manufacturers, or maybe what are the specific security challenges of dealing with a smaller manufacturing site or smaller SME?
Well, a lot of the time, the threat is from within, not from outside. So obviously, if you're a drinks company, the worst thing that could happen to you is somebody to sprinkle broken glass into the drink. Then you'd have pallets and pallets of drink that'd have to be thrown away. Obviously, from our point of view, we're manufacturing. It's a 24-hour operation, so it's making sure all the health and safety, checking all the vehicles, making sure the open trailers, making sure everything is in line. Because as I said, if you have a delay, certainly with manufacturing, certainly with goods in and goods out and everything else, it could cause serious hold-ups and everything else. So from our point of view, we've been involved in some big manufacturing sites, even to this day, where a lot of high-end goods are getting made. And from that point of view, it's understanding what the risk is and understanding that you're part of the cog to make sure that the business keeps flowing.
Okay. So manufacturing's obviously can be technology dominated. And I'm sure in a business over 33 years, there's been a hell of a lot of technical changes to yourselves. And I have this cute image of security involving dogs. I'm sure now it's far more to do with cameras and people. But can you tell us what security changes you've seen? And you can even touch on that thorny topic of AI if that affects you.
Yeah, absolutely. Can cover all that really. Starting with dogs, we still use dogs because they're still one of the best deterrents. Certainly with good K9, we've used them on numerous sites as one dog with one dog handler could be as good as 4 or 5 guards just because of the presence of the dog, etc., etc. What we've used for the last couple of years is these e-guards. They look the shape of a Dalek as such. We've used them on numerous sites now. We continue to use them. We've done quite a lot with those on void property sites. With regards to technology, we as a business are currently having our own dashboard rolled out, which is many, many years ago. Everything was a piece of paper, everything was written down. Now everything can be done on a dashboard, sent to the clients and everything else. So if somebody says, oh, has anyone reported we've got a cracked window, you'll see it's been reported 2 weeks ago, it's been sent to all these different people, whereas years ago you were scurrying around trying to see different bits of books, etc. So from that point of view, there's a lot more technology. We've got involved in AI as well with regards, certainly from our lead generation, certainly trying to speak with people, new clients, getting our name out there as well. I think if you don't embrace AI and you don't embrace technology, I think you'll stand still.
Yeah, very much so. So you mentioned the HQ in Solihull, which obviously sounds like, yeah, it's a big establishment. You've got a lot of people there, but I know you've also got a training academy and stuff. Can you tell me more about your sort of commitment to training and the headquarters?
Yeah. Yeah, so we identified that we needed to go down the route of opening a training academy, not only for our own staff, but for public bookers as well. So we opened it in April 2023, which was our 30th year. Obviously, we're at 33rd now, but in our 30th year. So we wanted to do a big commitment. So we opened our training academy. So from April 23 through to today, there's over 1,000 people being trained there. And as a security boss owner like myself, you have to, by law, have an SIA license, which is part of the security guard training. So in January this year, I had to do my training again for the next 3 years. So it was good for me to see. I said to the trainers, just treat me exactly the same. So it was great, and understanding and looking at all the questions and exactly and understanding all the role play with the door supervision and everything else. So the training academy has been great. Been great to do with public bookings. We've had local authorities, we've had different clients, we've had logistic companies that have come here as well to get their staff trained. So from our point of view, we're very proud of the training academy, and as I said, it's another great asset to the business.
Do you think there's a value in the training academy having a bit of a view to the outside world, in that you're working with other if you're working with external clients, you get their view of the world, not just your own view of the world?
Yeah, absolutely, because we do everything from fire marshal, we do everything from first aid, we do everything. We've done numerous courses. We've done pit barrier training course next door. We've done numerous courses, even a couple of weeks ago, because we had to do a show in Dublin. And the Dublin have a PSA license, which is different to the UK SIA license. So I had a team of 9 guys come in and do the Irish training at our academy. So it was interesting to see the different take on that. But yeah, with your clients and everything else, because they've all got different types of requirements and everything else, it is interesting to see what they have. And as I said, all the big customers that we deal with, I've had them all at head office, and we continue. And any potential customers, existing customers, always try and get them to head office to show them exactly what we're doing.
Okay, brilliant. You touched on the acquisition trail and the challenges of sort of due diligence.
Yeah.
Is that because acquisition is in your mind at the minute? Is there something planned? What's that? Is this a time where you think you'll be looking to expand further beyond organic growth?
Yeah. So we got to the size we were without acquisition. I made it perfectly known within the industry, Professional Security Magazine, different websites, numerous podcasts, that we were looking at acquisition. I've had the same CFO working with me now, Caroline. She works for the CFO Centre. She's very experienced in due diligence and expense acquisition. She's been with me 15 years now. So we've been out and we targeted different companies. I've now got our own brokers working on our behalf, trying to get people to speak to us. So as I said, we've signed NDAs. We've been all over the country having meetings. We're waiting for feedback. We send out all the due diligence. It's like everything else. People don't always work as quick as you want to work. If it was the shoe was on the other foot, I'd be a lot quicker. But it's one of them frustrating things. But I've always said that if we get one, we'll probably get 2. They'll come a bit like London buses, I think.
Yeah. Okay. We'll keep our eyes peeled for that.
Yeah.
I notice also the media's picked up a little bit over time, but you're very sort of committed to trying to support the community.
Yeah,
Can you give us a sort of recap or some of the
yeah.
activities, some of the things you've been involved with, some of the stories that have come from that maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned our 30th year. So that year, the girls decided that we'd try and raise 30 grand for charity, which we did. So they went to Birmingham Children's Hospital, Children's Hospices, some Walk Talk Action, young lady Terry that does a lot with veterans. So we split the money all evenly. 12 months ago, I got involved with Solihull Moors Football Club. The chairman's a friend of mine. I'm going to do some more now with the Solihull Moors Foundation. They have a lot. We gave them some money last year, but we're going to do a lot more. Going to do a press release on that next week, where we're going to do more with the foundation. And that's at Solihull Moors. Obviously, you got the first team, you got the ladies team, you got the second team, but there's all the other teams. So you've got impartial sighted, you've got some older guys, you've got some disabled people, all different in the community, which all come together. And the foundation at Solihull Moors is an excellent charity. And to be fair, we do a lot of gifts every year, where we have gifts like in this year alone, we've had some boxing gloves, we've had a Lionel Messi boot, a Ronaldo boot, all been auctioned out, all for individual charities and that, and then just try and do it that way, really.
Okay, excellent. I've noticed there's a few things where it looked like it was sports memorabilia that you'd come across.
The gloves. Yeah, all four of them. Yeah, for all different, from MND charities all the way through to hospices, to schools, to the children's. Do a lot with trying to help people, really.
Brilliant. This podcast goes out on a Saturday morning, so we assume that a lot of people watch it during the weekend. So if I can take you a little bit away from the office, so to speak, and ask, what topic do you enjoy talking about to somebody at the weekend? Maybe you stood in the kitchen at a party, you're at the pub. When you're not sat in front of a computer, what do you talk to people about?
I'd probably say sport, really. I'm sport mad. I box at a good level myself, obviously with the football. So sport's always a big thing. You mentioned music, do a lot over the years with the music. But a lot of the stuff with myself, when people speak to me, it always comes back to the business. People always have a chat with you, whether you're out, or I've had it many, many times where people just pull a chair up if you're having something to eat and ask you a question. And the thing from my point of view, it's the topics, I think with the news and that, it's so hard at the moment, and the way the politics are. But I'm quite fortunate this year. I've been invited to the House of Parliament. I've been invited to the American Embassy. I've been invited to a lot of high-ranking places. And from my point of view, you get to see all different types of what's going on, certainly in the UK.
Okay. You mentioned football. Can I give you the chance to win and lose some of the audience? Is there a particular team that your heart's passionate for, or is it a more general?
Yeah. So my corporate tickets I've had for many, many years at West Brom. So been a West Brom fan, man and boy. I think my dad got me involved. So yeah, my team's West Brom. But as I said, the last 12 months done a lot with Solihull Moors as well. So yeah, certainly in the Midlands. But we're certainly not glory hunters at West Brom.
I suppose you talked about the news. One thing, even if you support the worst football team in the world, you're not going to get 365 days of bad news, which seems to be the way we are on the news. So sport's a relief, at least.
Yeah, well, West Brom have had a terrible season, but then when you looked at their biggest rivals, Wolves have had a worse season. It kind of everything's relative, really. But and then on the other side, Villa have had a great season. So it's one of them. Sports, a funny thing. Great thing this year, which I think will be great for the country as well, is the World Cup in America. Hearing a lot about that. So I think that brings a lot of goodness to the country. I remember when the Euros were on a couple of years ago and all that. It seems like it's encouragement if the weather's nice, etc. Brings people out, see the little kids in their England shirts and that. I think it's positivity. Like at the start of the year in January and February, it's raining and it's dark and everyone's miserable, etc. And then the war starts. If you can turn it round a bit, certainly with sport and that, certainly football's the biggest sport in the world, isn't it? But I see a lot with boxing. Boxing's great for getting kids off the streets and everything else. Anything that's a positive's got to be good.
Yeah, indeed. Final question, traditional one for this show, is to ask you, what have you got planned or what do you hope for the next 12 months? So that can be personal, that can be the business. What ideally would you like to see happen in the next 12 months?
For me, the acquisitions, because we worked so hard. As I said, we've worked really hard. We've instructed our brokers who are working, speaking with them on a daily basis. I myself, I've worked closely with London's third oldest privately owned bank, a bank called Arbuthnot. So the MD there is a good friend of mine, Tim Hawkins, and I've worked closely with him in business for the last 12 years, and he's fully supported us. And we've been able to grow our business, we've been able to grow our people, we've been able to grow really. It's just this last cog in the wheel, really. And a lot of it is because you're relying on others. We send people due diligence requests and it takes forever, and it's 10 meetings and they say something but they mean something else, and it's just one of them. It's just the slowness of it is just frustrating. It's great if you've got plenty of patience, but if you've got zero patience like myself, it doesn't help.
Okay, brilliant. Well, it's been interesting to get an insight into sort of a very well established and thriving large protection organization rather than the smaller ones that you often see sort of portrayed in the media. How do people go about finding out more about Man Commercial Protection? Yeah,
so obviously we're very involved heavily on LinkedIn. So my personal, obviously Iain McCallister, and then you got the company Man Commercial Protection. If you put the two together, that's about 16,000 followers, so decent numbers. All the normal socials, obviously, both Man Commercial, myself on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. But to be fair, LinkedIn's been very good for us. Somebody was telling me the other day that 85% of B2B work, as in sales, done through social media is done on LinkedIn. We've been quite fortunate with LinkedIn. It's been good for us. We worked hard at it as well. But I think the whole thing, certainly in manufacturing and everything else, is trying to constantly keep portraying good news and positivity, because it's easy to get wrapped up in negativity, isn't it?
Well, you're definitely singing my songbook there. Totally agree with you. I think, LinkedIn's a powerful and useful business tool. But yeah, I think we can all edit ourselves a little bit and just put out the good stuff.
Yeah, I think with LinkedIn as well, for what I've seen anyway, it's far easier to have what I call keyboard warriors on Facebook and on Google reviews and on Instagram. I think 99% of the time, from what I've seen anyway, LinkedIn is actually that person. So if they add a comment or they add you a DM or whatever, I think 99% of the chance you're dealing with somebody. Whereas with Facebook and that, the names and all that, you can tell straight away that it's somebody that's set up a bogus account.
Yeah, interesting. Okie dokie. Before we sign off, can I ask, do you have a final sentence, question, observation, or what's your thought that you'd like to sign off the episode with?
Well, people often ask me about what I do about retiring. I couldn't think of anything worse. And I've got a sign in the business, which is next door, which says there is no end game. So I've done a few different interviews over the last few years where I've talked about I've got zero interest in retiring, just want to keep growing the business, want to keep growing the team, making sure everything works. And as I said, we're looking positivity over the next couple of years to keep moving forward.
Okay. Well, thank you for being a great guest. And I think it's really nice to hear somebody, who obviously enjoys what they're doing, because, you do speak to a lot of people and it's all about cruising off into the sunset. So it's lovely to hear about your success and how much it means to you.
Well, if there's no passion, there's no point. And at the end of the day, another thing that I say regularly, you get a lot of people in business, they want to do 2, 3, 4, 5 different things. With me, I've just stuck to what it is. So just stuck to security. We don't touch FM, we don't touch cleaning. We just stick. I don't want to dilute the brand. I want to stick to what we do. And it's something I said the other day, dig one hole and dig it deep.
Yeah, and wow. Okay,
yeah.
That's a good way to wrap up. So I'm just going to close with the normal words of saying, if anybody has any comments, suggestions, or if they'd like to appear particularly in a future episode, please email us at inquiries@mtdcnc.com or contact myself, Stuart Whitehead, or Joe Reynolds. From me, Mark Weymouth at Sensor Specialist Plus Automation. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Cheers. Bye.